Hi everyone, and welcome to Exploring the Build. If you've just found this place, then welcome. And if you're returning, I'm glad to have you back. I'm Alex, and this is my channel where we explore and theory craft different character builds for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We hit 1,000 subscribers! Before I talk about the video, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say that I cannot thank you guys enough. All your support means the world to me. Whether it's through subscribing, just watching a video, liking, commenting, sharing, all of it makes a world of difference to me, and I cannot thank you enough. Now that we've reached 1,000 subscribers, I do have a couple other fun things in mind for the near future, as well as a Halloween special video coming up later this week. Today though, I thought it would be fun to do a 1,000 subscriber special, and instead of our usual build videos, make a tier list. But there is a bit of a twist. We're going to be ranking all of the subclasses in the 2024 Player's Handbook, only I'm not going to tell you the criteria that we're using to rank them on. Instead, I thought it would be a little fun to have a bit of a mystery tier list where you guys can try to deduce and figure out, or just straight up guess, what the tier ranking system that we're using is. Feel free to put your answers as to what you think the ranking system is in the comments below. But at some point, probably later down the line, I will add a pinned comment to the video that links to the actual answers for what the criteria was. So if you're watching this video at a later point in time, be sure to watch out for spoilers in the comments, and I apologize if you read those before watching the video. But besides all that, let's have some fun and jump into the tier list. All right, we're over on Tier Maker with our tier list set up here, and we got all of our subclasses. Let's just jump right into it. First up is going to be the Aberrant Sorcerer. We're going to just put that right into C tier right away. It's going to get followed immediately by the Abjuration Wizard. There isn't much to say about this one either. Unfortunately, both of these options just stacking right up next to each other. The Ancient's Paladin, though, is going to be our first baseline B tier. It is right in the middle of the road, and I think that's pretty appropriate for it. The Archfey Warlock is going to be our first S tier. The Assassin, however, is going to be our first A tier. This one, I think, speaks for itself. It belongs in A tier, no questions asked. The Arcane Trickster is going to follow it into B tier. It's, again, pretty solid, nice baseline, but there isn't a whole lot else going for it. The Beastmaster is up next, and honestly, taking everything into account for them, I'm going to have to put them into C tier. My hands are kind of tied on this one. That just is the way it is. The Battlemaster, however, is going to follow up into B tier as well. Again, a nice of a subclass for the fighter. It's going to fit at home there. Clockwork Soul is going to follow up into C tier as well, as it is just the Clockwork Soul. The Devotion Paladin is going to join the Assassin up in A tier. Honestly, very, very solid. Keeping up with that trend, the Draconic Soul Sorcerer is going to join those two as well, kind of getting a couple good ones back to back. The Berserker's up next, and Berserker right into S tier, no question. The Glory Paladin is going to fall back into C tier, and honestly, I don't think that really surprises anybody. The Fiend Warlock is also going to fall into C tier. Maybe that one is surprising, but I think if you really look at it, honestly, it kind of belongs there. Champion's going to follow up into A tier. Overall, pretty solid. I don't think it stretches into S, but it certainly isn't going to be a B. Celestial Warlock, following the first letter in its name, is going to go into C. That's that. Life Cleric is also going to follow Celestial Warlock and fall into C tier. The Diviner's up next though, and the Diviner is also going to go into C tier. We have just been hitting back to back to back C tiers. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that, really. Just based on what we're looking at, that's where they belong. Thief is up next, and this one I don't think is surprising anybody at all. Thief is definitely going into A tier. Soul Knife, now going back to our other trends, is going to fall into C tier as well, unfortunately though. In between the two, Eldritch Knight is actually going to go up into B tier. Really, I think it is another nice middle of the road. It doesn't have a whole lot going for it, but there's not a lot taking away either. The Evoker Wizard, also going to follow into B tier. Again, nice, simple, middle of the road. The Glamour Bard is going to end up in C tier though. This one might be surprising. Obviously, it has a few things going for it, but not quite what we were hoping for and what we're looking at. Elements Monk, right into S tier. This one, definitely not a surprise, I think, for anybody. Yeah, it 100% deserves to be up in S tier. Following the Elements Monk, maybe this one also is a bit of a surprise, the Goo Warlock, or Great Old One, definitely I have to give it S tier. I can see an argument for A tier, but I think there's just enough to push it into S and leave it at home there. Gloomstalker is going to go into B tier, Light Cleric as well, going into B tier. Hunter Ranger is actually going to jump up into A tier. This one could surprise people. I know people are kind of sensitive to Rangers in 2024, but honestly, I think it deserves to be an A, even if some of the other Rangers are lower on the list. Speaking of other Rangers, Fey Wanderer, our last Ranger subclass, right into C. Nothing else. Dance Bard, F. The Way of the Open Hand Monk is also going to pop over into C tier here. We're really starting to get into a lot of C tiers, but honestly, I think at the end of the list, it's going to be the largest category. Shadow Monk is going to go up into B tier. Really, it's nice to see that B tier has a little bit of everything in it. The Trickery Cleric, that is going into S tier. I think that one is probably the most baseline of all our S tiers. Some might be below it, some might be above it, but it fits perfectly in the middle. Moon Druid, gonna go into A tier. Same as the Trickery Cleric, it feels like it would be more of the middle of A tier if I were organizing that way, but really, we're just kind of throwing them in as they pop up in our order down here. Sea Druid, no surprise, F tier. Vengeance Paladin is going to go into A tier as well, a pretty good option. The World Tree Barbarian, F tier unfortunately. And Wild Magic though, jumping right from F tier with the World Tree, we are actually going to bump this all the way up into S tier. Again, one of our maybe lower S tiers, because I can see a good argument for A, but honestly, I think it's enough that we just have to kind of give it that little push and put it in S. The War Cleric I will put in A though, and I am comfortable leaving it there. There's not enough to get it into S, but it definitely deserves to be higher up. Following that though, Wildheart is actually going to show up in A as well. Maybe a little weird, but I do think it should be there too. Zealot is going to be B tier for us. That might seem a little weird with the Wildheart being A, but really, looking at the other subclasses we got there, I think Zealot fits more in line with them, while the Wildheart just kind of edges it out. Stars Druid, really cool subclass, really love the artwork on it, unfortunately, C tier. Psy Warrior as well, following it right away, C tier too. The Illusionist Wizard, honestly, this is going to be S tier, and it may actually end up being our last S tier that we put in there. We only have 4 more subclasses to go, so we'll see if they make the cut as well. The Lore Bard, definitely C tier, definitely. The Land Druid is actually going to pop up into A tier. Of all the druids, I personally think this one is my favorite, but obviously I did not let that affect the ranking. The Mercy Monk, it's going to end up in C tier as well, and that will allow us to finish off with the Valor Bard, which is going to go into B tier. And other than that, that's the video. We have our tier list. I'll show it on screen at the actual end of the video when I stop talking here. I'll give you a few seconds, look through it, see if you agree, see if you disagree, and of course, see if you can figure out exactly what we were ranking the subclasses based on. If you like this type of video, let me know in the comments below as well, and maybe we'll do more tier lists where you guys get to guess what we're ranking based on. Thank you so much for coming on the journey with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.